What's up, guys? Keyshawn Uchiha here, back at you with another new Ultimate Universe video. Well, a new part to Ultimate Universe video. And this will be part 2 of What If Deku Was Gay. 18 plus, because, hey, it's going to be adding some stuff into it. But, due to, we're going to say, Pacific people was asking for this, I'm going to give this to another part. So, if you could say, don't like this kind of stuff, please don't watch this video. But if you do, please stay tuned to this. This will be part 2 of What If Deku Was Gay. In vain for do, let's get started. But I'm gonna do a quick recap since it's been a while, and we're gonna get the new part started. So where we pretty much last left off, Deku was pretty much using, well, you could say unlocking this quirk, Galaxy Fall, which it's a quirk that kind of has something to do with gravity and also manipulating the stars and stuff, and also planets and stuff in alignment. So, and you could say messing with the laws of physics in sort of way. He used his gravity to make the sludge villain get off Bakugo, which All Might came in and pretty much captured the sludge villain and pretty much gave him autograph and disappeared. Which this is where later on, Deku went home to which Deku was texting Bakugo to if he was asleep, which Bakugo says nah, he's gonna sleep with him tonight, which we pretty much left off with that. Now let's get to the new parts. Pretty much the next morning, Deku was pretty much laying with Bakugo, which Bakugo is still asleep, which Deku begins to you could say kiss Bakugo and on the forehead, saying good morning, sleepyhead. We gotta get training done. Which Bakugo says 5 more minutes. Which Deku begins to make a pouty face that says, come on, you can't be sleeping all day. And they begin to get up. Now, this is where Deku tells his mom that him and Kashan is gonna go out to the beach and train for 10 months. Which Inko says okay. Now, this is where you could say Bakugo and Deku goes up to the beach, and Deku finds out this Pacific beach to train their quirk itself, and also to move some recycling to get muscles, and also strength. Now, this is where they have a whole camping tent and stuff to pretty much sleep at the beach and wake up the next day to start training. Now, the first month they begins to do exercise workout and move some recycling, some of those small ones and stuff, and then for we're gonna do up to 5 months. They're pretty much almost done with the beach and stuff, and then we're gonna do at the 9th month. Well, sorry about that, but let's continue. Pretty much the 9th month, they're pretty much almost done with the beach and stuff, and they pretty much finished it and doing their work and working out and stuff, and you could say they was spending time with each other in the tent and having a more closer bond even more. And they've been, testing out their quirks together and realizing their bond with their quirks is pretty good, and their karma with their quirks is quite powerful. Now, this is where All Might comes in, and he doesn't have a student. He pretty much still looking for a successor until he sees, these two on the beach. Now, this is where All Might sees pretty much 2 of them, and he looks at them. He says, it's them from before. And this is where he's introduced himself, and they're saying, oh my god, it's All Might. Now this is where All Might is saying that they do this, which they're saying yeah. Now this is where All Might begins to think. It says maybe I can have 2 successors to the One for All quirk, and they will be the 9th and then 10th successor. Now, this is where All Might begins to explain about his injury and stuff, and begins to say he wants them to be the successors. Which this is where Deku accept and Bakugo accept, and they share it. Now, this is where they both have One for All quirk together. And this is where All Might begins to say, okay, for those last months we're going to train out the One for All quirk so y'all don't mess up or anything. And they say okay. Now, this is where you could say Bakugo and Deku was training out with the One for All quirk, and using testing out using the short smash. So now this is where All Might realize they can control it and not, break their arms and stuff. And realize they can go up to only, we're going to say 50% of one for all. Yeah, I know what y'all saying. 50%? That's pretty broken. They can handle that. Yeah, we're going to say 50%. What the hell? Now, this is where All Might says, how about y'all use your quirks at the same time with it? Which Deku thought about it, says, oh wait, we can't. Which is where Bakugo tests out his explosion, which his explosion is 10 times bigger than the radius, and it creates you could say a massive explosion. Now this is where Deku tried out his gravity, and he realized his gravity is affecting buildings too, because as he's using his gravitational pull down, he realized that Bakugo and All Might is falling down and can't get up, and realized that like sea animals, fishes and stuff in the water is like getting pushed back and stuff, and the buildings are crashing and cracking and stuff. And he's saying, oh shoot. And he immediately says, sorry, I didn't know that would be that powerful in this radius. Which Bakugo says, your quirk is quite powerful with that one for all quirk. Hell, if you wanted to become a villain, you could have easily destroyed all of us. Which Deku says, oh, don't talk like that. You know I would never become a villain. Now, this is where Bakugo looks down and says, yeah, and begins to blush, which All Might can see that little, you could say, relationship, which this is where All Might asks, are y'all together as a couple? Which Bakugo begins to say, what? Who made you say that? Which this is where All Might says, it's okay, trust me. Listen, I know a couple who, gay. So don't afraid to express that. Trust me. We're in the age of era where, gayness is allowed and all that. Which, Deku says, yeah. And Bakugo just says, yeah, sure. Now, this is where All Might tells him to good luck on the entrance exam and hope to see him in class. Which Deku and, Bakugo says, yeah, and they begin to head off. Now, they begins to get dressed and stuff and, start heading to the, you could say, interest in him while they're talking to each other. Now this is where Bakugo begins to ask Deku that is it anything else, like is it anyone else that he's been seeing, which Deku begins to laugh and says, Kashan, are you getting nervous that I'm gonna leave you for someone else? Which Bakugo says, no, it's not that, which this is where Deku kisses Bakugo in the lips and says, I'm not going to leave you for no one else, so calm down. And begins to start going. Now, this is where Bakugo and Deku sits down and listen to the instructor and stuff. And you remember that passive ability of, you could say BL, Quirk, that second passive ability where it has a pheromone set to attract guys. Yeah, this is where, it started activating almost, and started attracting, you could say, guys to look at Deku and stuff, which Deku is not paying attention to Bakugo is, and Bakugo making that angry face of like, yo, back off, this is mine, in which, all the guys are backing away. Now, for everything else, Deku passes with the strength test, second place, Bakugo comes in first, because we're going to say he'd be working out more. IQ thing, Deku comes in first, Bakugo comes in second, because Deku been training Bakugo with his mind and been making sure he be smart instead of being a dumb boy. Now, the robot thing. This is where the teacher is explaining the robot pumps and stuff. Now, this is where Deku asks, can we use as teamwork to work together to get points? Which he says, yeah, y'all points will be, well, yeah, y'all can use teamwork, but just to let you know, if you use teamwork, y'all points will be shared. That means y'all points will be 50-50. And y'all have like a lower number to be in the lowness. But if y'all work together better, then y'all can reach him first and stuff. Which Deku says, okay. Now, this is where the teacher says, are you marked? This is where he says, are you marked? Get set, go. And everybody start going. Now, this is where Deku hops on, tells Bakugo to get going, and he starts his explosions. Begins to start leaping with his explosion while Deku uses his gravitational lift. And begins to fly. Now, as he's flying, Bakugo's throwing, you could say, creating like explosion grenades. kind of hot explosion grenades. He formed them together with Deku because Deku can, you could say, compress explosions and make them into like little balls. Now, as Bakugo is doing that with his hands, Deku's working together, and their teamwork is compatible. They're making big explosions, grenades, and stuff, and making all that uniqueness and combos. And All Might's looking and saying, "Huh, look like they're working together instead of being separate. Impressive. I like their teamwork." Now, this is where you could say Bakugo and Deku says, "You think this is enough points to get us past him?" Which Bakugo says, I guess we should go." Which this is where the 0 Point Robot comes out. And everybody's running and stuff, and screaming and peeing their pants and stuff, saying, "Oh my god, it's a robot." Until Deku sees Uraraka and she's screaming for help. Well, yeah, she's screaming for help. Now, this is where Deku says, "Kashan, we gotta help her," which Bakugo says, "Alright, let's do it." Now, this is where they both hold hands, connect with their hands, and be like, "You ready?" "Yeah." And they begins to use their quirks as one. And this is where Bakugo and Deku says, "Gravity nuke," and they begins to work together to, you could say, as they're saying it together, they're saying gravity explosion, which this is where Bakugo is using his concentration to make the ground under the robot begins to explode and like to blow up the robot as the robot's getting crushed. So it's blowing up, and the explosions are like blowing off the robot parts bit by piece while it's getting crushed down. And this is where the robot blows up and get crushed down. And nothing, none of the radius degree start flowing around stuff because the gravity is crashing down. Now this is where Deku and Bakugo runs up and asks if she's alright, which she says, "Yeah, I'm alright, thank you," which, well, she doesn't say thank you, but she says, "Yeah, I'm alright," which this is where Bakugo and Deku says, "Well, we be going now," and begins to head out together. Now, this is where she sees them, you could say, walking together as a team up. Now, later on, Bakugo and Deku begins to, walk together and saying, "We did great out there with our combos," which Bakugo's saying, "Yeah, I gotta say, our quirks together is quite deadly." Which Deku says, "Yeah, quite deadly. I didn't know you can make explosions come from the ground," which Bakugo says, "Yeah, ever since you helped me do my studying much better, I've been learning my quirks, how to use my quirk in specific ways and stuff, without just using my hands as explosion," which Deku says, "Huh, neat." Now, this is where you could say Deku is heading to his house, and Bakugo says, "I see you later," which Deku gives him a kiss and tells him good night, which Bakugo says good night. Now, next day, they get their separate later, and they're saying, they're pretty much looking, they say, Bakugo and Deku their names is together since they use teamwork. So they reached first together. So they both got accepted in class 1A and stuff. So this is where they begin to get dressed in, and Deku tells his mom to, goodbye, which Star, Cherry, and Bunny begins to run up to their brother saying, "Have fun on his first day," which, Deku says, "I will, sisters," and begins to head out. Now, Deku is heading out, pretty much get going, and sees Bakugo and begins to walk with Bakugo, which Bakugo is saying, ready to see what his class is like, which Deku said, "Yeah," and they head into the building. Now, Bakugo finds a seat and put his feet up top, which Deku sits next to him. Well, you could say Deku sits next to him, which this is where Edon is coming in. He gets his pissed off route and was saying, "You can't do that, you're disrespecting school," which this is where Deku says, there's no use trying to tell him what to do. He's not going to take his feet down, no matter what you say, which this is where Edon is saying, "Excuse me, who are you?" Which Deku looks up and smiles and says, "Well, my name is Deku, or Bazooka Midoriya, if you'd like to call me." But I'm just telling you the truth, which Bakugo begins to put his feet down and this because he's gonna get mad and punch Ida in the face while talking disrespectful to Deku. Now, this is where everybody else comes in and everybody's introducing themselves and stuff. And Bakugo and Deku, they're introducing themselves and all that stuff. Now this is where the teacher gets up and says, "Why is everything so loud?" And begins to look at the whole class. Now this is where he says, interesting. Alright, everybody gets their gym uniform on. I'm going to test out your quirks, which is where Enoch, of course, says, you can't do that, which is where Razorhead says, you can't, you telling me what I can't do? Did you know I kicked the whole class out before? Because they wasn't ready, they wasn't fit out for this class. Do you want to be the first to get kicked out? Which, everybody's freaking out except for Deku and Bakugo. Because they got some confidence. But Deku says, ooh, sassy, so you could say. Now, this is where you could say, everybody goes to the gym and put on their, you could say go in their locker. Go in the boys and girls locker room. We start with the girls, and, girls do whatever they put their stuff in. Now, we go to the boys locker room. Now, as the boys are changing, put on the gym uniform. Deku takes off his shirt and stuff. And this is where we're gonna say Todoroki begins to look at Deku. Checking out Deku, you could say, and Todoroki's blushing, you could say. And also, you could say the other boys, but this is where Todoroki is really looking at Deku. Now, Deku looks at Todoroki and begins to smile, which Todoroki looks away blushing. Which this is where Bakugo is already dressed saying, Deku, come on, we gotta get ready before we be the last ones, which Deku says, yeah. Now, Todoroki is pretty much, putting his stuff on, and they all heading out. Now, this is where you could say everything goes as the same, except with Deku and Uraraka comes, tied with the gravity quirk, because we're gonna say Deku's gravity and Uraraka's gravity is both the same, so yeah. Now, everybody passes. We're going to say everybody passes, and we're going to go to the hero versus villain arc. Now, this is where Deku is in class, talking to, you could say, Uraraka and stuff. And this is where Todoroki begins to, stare at Deku, which Deku can sense that Todoroki is staring at him, which he looks at Todoroki and begins to, you could say, make a smile and just waves at him, which Todoroki blushes and look away again. Now, this is where you could say Bakugo kind of spotted a little bit, but not that much. He spotted a little bit with his cane eye as he's talking to, the rest of the boys. Now, this is where we're going to say All Might comes in, and everybody's decided that All Might's here and stuff, and saying, oh my god. And this is where All Might is playing the test, the next classroom test or something. And it's the hero versus villain, which everything goes as the same as usual, except for the teams. The teams are still the same. Now, this is where Deku and Uraraka is walking together. And Deku pretty much tells Uraraka that, she goes up top and goes search for she goes in the building, but goes in the second floor window and look for the bomb while he goes in there and fight Bakugo. Now, this is where Deku goes in the building and Bakugo begins to start his explosions and stuff. And this is where he sees Deku and says, Deku, and begins to let out a tiny explosion, because he's not trying to hurt Deku, because like I said, that Bakugo has a liking to Deku. Now, this is where Deku begins to say, hey Kaushan, you ready to fight? Which Bakugo says, yeah, and begins to throw some explosions, but not big explosions. Which Deku is saying, what are you doing? Why are you throwing these light explosions? You regularly rip out big explosions at everybody else. Why not me? Which this is where Bakugo, begins to do sign language, which no one doesn't know. And he says, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to hurt you that much. I know we're supposed to do a test, but I'm not really trying to hurt you. Which Deku says, I know it's a test, but we have to go all out to show our disruptive power, to show that we're good as rivals, but also good as you could say as team members. Which this is where Bakugo says, all right, if you say so. He begins to let out a big explosion, which Deku pretty much do the gravity fall nations and switch the building. He begins to make gravity switch up. As think of that scene at Simu when he makes the Earth tilt in a different way, and everybody start realizing that the planet start tipping over. Which Bakugo is saying, "What the hell did you just do, Deku?" Which Deku is saying, "I wanted to see what else I can do with this Quirk, and apparently so, I could tip the Earth inside way." Now this is where All For One, he's pretty much in his office, and he's tipping over to us saying, "What the hell is happening?" And Shigaraki and all of them, they're all freaking out, and the villains too. And the whole Earth is freaking out because they don't know what the hell happened. Which All Might can see that Deku is doing it. Now, this is where they're on the side of the wall, and Bakugo is saying, "Huh, that's a neat trick." Which Deku says, "Yeah," and they begin to continue fighting now. This is where Deku is, using gravitational and slamming Bakugo up and down and stuff, and left and right. And with this where Bakugo threw a massive explosion. It pretty much hit Deku, sent him flying out. Which is where Deku begins to flow. It says, "Huh." Now this is where Uraraka touched the bomb. And, heroes win, of course. Because the bomb is tipped it over. I mean, well, you could say tipped it over, and Uraraka pretty much have gravitational, and Idan doesn't have, was, you could say, having a struggle to trying to figure out what the hell's happening. So this is where Deku, fixed the gravitational and refixed the Earth back where it is. And All For One is thinking, whoever had that Quirk, I gotta find him. I gotta find her or him. Which Shigaraki is still saying, what the hell? And all the villains and all that, and pulling the heroes. Now this is where the principal, Izuku, says, "You know what just happened, All Might?" Which All Might says, "I think it was Deku. I think he did that with his Quirk." Which the principal is saying, he has a powerful Quirk. We can't let the villains find out who he is, especially him. Which All Might knows that All For One is still alive, saying, "Yeah, of course him." Now, this is where they all head into the classroom and stuff, and they're all sitting down and talking. Now, this is where we're gonna say Bakugo goes. I mean, since he has to. Well, this is where they all have their lunch, and Deku is going to go get his lunch somewhere else. And this is where we're gonna say Todoroki falls. Deku. Now, this is where Todoroki hits up. You could say push Deku up to the wall, saying, "Why do you keep staring at me?" Which this is where Deku does a small laugh, and saying, "I was looking at you. You was looking at me, checking me out." Which this is where Todoroki begins to blush and says, which this is where Deku says, "Listen, if you have a liking to me, I'm sorry, but I'm already in a relationship with some other guy." Which this is where Todoroki says, "Who is that guy?" Which Deku turns around and says, "It's Bakugo." Now this is where Todoroki says, "Huh, Bakugo? That guy?" Which this is where Deku says, "Yeah, that guy." Now this is where Todoroki says, "Huh," and thinks in his head, saying, "I'm gonna make you mine," and begins to walk away. Now, this is where Deku begins to go grab his lunch and comes back in the classroom, which Bakugo says, "What took you so long?" Which Deku says, "It was nothing. I just got into a delay." Now, this is where the teacher comes in and says that they're gonna be going to a museum, well, a good hero wrestling museum, to test out their hero skills of wrestling and stuff, and all different situations. Which this is where Deku and Bakugo are all just happy, saying, "Yeah, this is amazing." Now this is where they hop on the bus and begins to start going and stuff. and talking to each other and all that stuff. And this is where Deku is thinking to himself, saying, "Does Todoroki really have a thing for me, or am I just bugging?" Probably. Now, this is where they hop off the cliff and it begins to go in. And this is where, the pro hero is, talking all that, or the teacher gets to talking and saying what they have to do and all that stuff. Now this is where, the villain comes in and, all that happens. Now, this is where Deku tells Todoroki to go get All Might. Wow. Well, they stay here, which this is where Edon runs. Not Todoroki, but Edon runs and go get All Might. Now this is where, everybody gets teleported and stuff. And this is where Deku is with Floppy and also Mineta. Now, this is where the villains are, swimming under them and stuff, and the whole attack is happening. So Deku pretty much says, And this is where he, you could say use one of the planets. And we're gonna say the coldest planet. I forgot the planet name, but he pretty much used it to freeze up the water, pretty much freezing the villains in the water, like to ice below zero, pretty much freezing them. Now this is where he grabs Floppy and Mineta and tells them to go help out the rest while he go help out Razorhead. Now this is where Deku is going to the Nomu the help out Razorhead, because Razorhead is could say taking a couple punches and stuff. Now this is where Deku says, "I'm here, teacher," which this is where Razorhead says, "No, back away, Deku. This Nomu is powerful," which this is where Bakugo comes in with his, we're gonna say with his quirk, and he begins to, with the one for all quirk and explosion, he begins to let out big explosions to Nomu, which Nomu has shock resistance, so of course, Nomu is just looking at Bakugo and begins to swing at him, which Bakugo is throwing out explosions left and right and stuff. Now, this is where Deku begins to think, and he says, "I think I got an idea." Now, this is where Deku tells Bakugo to, hold off Nomu while he, concentrate. Which Bakugo says, "Alright," and he begins to throw left and right explosions and, dodging Nomu punches and stuff. This is where Shigaraki is laughing, saying, "You idiots, it's not gonna work. You're just gonna all die." Now this is where Deku says, "Alright, now," and he pretty much touched Bakugo's back and pretty much says, "Now do it." This is where Bakugo punches the Nomu in the stomach and saying, nuke punch, and pretty much blows up. Pretty much, you could say, messing with the molecules of the Nomu, and pretty much blows up. Make the Nomu blows up inside out, and you just hear a bunch of guts blowing everywhere. Now this is where Shigaraki is saying, "What? How does this happen? That's cheating!" Itching his neck and stuff. And Shigaraki is getting pissed off, saying, damn it. And this is where, Shigaraki teleports out there, and, only a couple of villains teleport, and the rest be left. Now this is where All Might comes in and say what the hell happened, which, Razorhead is pretty much down on the ground, pretty much saying that, Deku and Bakugo pretty much handled the Nomu and made the villains leave. Which All Might is saying, "Good job, y'all two." Which, Deku is hitting the ground, pretty much laying down, saying, "That was exhausting." Now this is where they all get a 2-week break due to that, trying to figure out who was attacking their school and stuff. And this is where Deku gets a knock on the door from Todoroki. Now this is where the mom let Todoroki in to go talk to Deku, which Deku was in his room pretty much by himself, because Bakugo went somewhere too to go check something out. Now this is where Todoroki begins to look, says, "So you live here?" Which this is where Deku says, "Oh, hey Todoroki, what are you doing here?" Which Todoroki begins to say, "Oh, just came here to see you," and all that. Now this is where Deku is laying on the bed and saying, "Well, I'm pretty tired right now, so you can just hit the door." Which this is where Todoroki gets on the bed and you could say, "Oh, Deku," which Deku begins to say, "Get off me. What do you think you're doing?" Which this is where Todoroki says, "Well, you remember what I said? I want you." Which Deku begins to blush and says, I'm already in a relationship." Which this is where Todoroki says, "I don't care about that. I could just be the third wheel." Which he begins to kiss Deku, which Deku is trying to resist, but eventually it doesn't happen, and they begins to have sex. Now, I'm going to put in detail because, like I said, this is an 18 plus detail, so yeah, let's go into detail. Pretty much, Inko and Ari, the girls are already out and stuff, so this is where, Todoroki is undressing Deku and, biting on Deku's neck and, biting on his nipple, which Deku begins to moan and, all that. And this is where we're going to say they get the you could say stuff to make the butt to make the butt stuff much easier to put in. So they get to Todoroki, and we're gonna say Todoroki is the one who's about to get effed. So Deku begins to get the tube and finger Todoroki's butt with 2 fingers to make it nice and elusive. And Todoroki is moaning and all that stuff. Now this is where Deku says, "I'm going to put it in," and he pretty much put it in Todoroki's butt. Now Todoroki is moaning and stuff, and Deku's going in and out and stuff. And this is where you could say Deku did nut and Todoroki nuts, and they pretty much lay in the bed together. Now Deku is pretty much thinking of what the hell did he just done? He should not have done that. Which Todoroki is laying with Deku, saying that he regularly don't think he likes guy, but he thinks this is the first ever time he likes someone as a guy, like Deku. Which Deku is saying, "Oh." And now, this is where Todoroki begins to get dressed and says he has to go somewhere, which he sees him later, which Deku says, "Yeah, I guess." Now this is where Bakugo texts Deku and asks if he's alright, which Deku says yeah. Which Bakugo says that's good. He's gonna be coming to his house soon, so make sure to be ready. Which Deku says yeah. Now this is part 2 of What If Deku Was Gay. If you like, leave a like, comment down, do all that stuff. But I'm Keyshawn Chia. Thanks for watching, and peace out.
It looks like you lost another one.